Hey guys, this is Val and Puffy. We wanted to read you page 143 and some 144 of Jean Donaldson's book called The Culture Clash. And she really helps you to explain how dogs think and work. And they don't think like humans, so sometimes our culture clashes because we don't understand dogs and we want them to act like humans. And that's what this book is about. But there's a really cool thing. The cool thing is dogs have little lemon brains, right? And their brains don't really think a lot. But she goes in to to explain how they work. So, anyways, this is a great chapter. Behavior as an experiment. Dogs experiment with their behaviors to see what is reinforcing for them, what is going to get them what they want. If you understand this about dogs, then you can manipulate your dog's environment to get them to do certain behaviors, and then you give them rewards. This is called classical conditioning. We talked about operant conditioning, where you just exercise their muscle. You do 5 sits, the dog learns to sit. But classical conditioning, or shaping your dog, you manipulate the environment so that the dog does behaviors that you want, and you give him reinforcement. Okay? So, the environment is training the dog all the time. So if you're not training your dog is being trained. Your dog is always figuring out what's going to get me what I want. Okay? The environment is training the dog all the time. Sofas reinforce dogs for laying on them by being warmer and more comfortable than the floor. The dog realizes that if I lay on this feels good. So it gets reinforced. Every time that dog lays on the sofa, he feels good and he does it again. Sofa jumping goes up in probability every time the sofa rewards him for getting on it. Squirrels reinforce dogs by fleeing. He's more likely to do it again tomorrow if he comes upon a squirrel and the squirrel runs away. If the dog moves towards a mailbox, it doesn't flee, so that behavior never gets rolling. If the dog stares at the fridge and it never opens, he doesn't do it for long. If he stares at you and you give him food, that behavior is going to be reinforced, and he's going to do it more and more. Maybe if he stares at you and you don't give him food, he might say, okay, let me put my paw up. So she notices that I'm staring at her. That didn't work. Let me see. Let me stare at her and look cute. Oh, mommy gave me a piece of food. Let me stare at her again. Look cute. Mommy gave me a food, and the behavior is reinforced. Let me try that with Dad. Dad didn't give me a food. Okay, let me take Dad and bark at him. Ruff, 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 ruff. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Ruff, 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 ruff. And I get fed. Oh, if I bark at Dad, he'll give me food. Okay? If I stare at the fridge, I don't get food. But if I stare at the fridge when Mom's in front of the fridge, she gives me a piece of chicken. Dogs are always thinking about that. Okay? If a dog moves towards a mailbox and it doesn't run away, he never goes to the mailbox again. If a dog stares at the fridge and it never opens, he doesn't do it for long, even though that's where all the good food is kept. The behavior dies. It doesn't work. Neither does scratching on the fridge. I know there's good food in there if I scratch on it. Nope. That behavior dies. Didn't get rewarded. It may be done as an experiment, but it will probably die quickly unless it works. Staring at the owner when he's eating sometimes works, so that behavior lives. If he scratches on the back door and a human opens it, that behavior works, so it will live to occur again tomorrow or the next day. If it keeps working, it gets stronger and stronger until it plateaus out at some level elevated frequency. This is not simply someone's opinion. This is law, the law of dog training. An important thing to understand is that the dog is not working this out logically in his head. Hey, maybe he'll give me some sandwich if I look hungry enough. Any more than he thinks, hey, maybe the sofa will give me some warm comfy if I jump on it and lay down. The dog will do whatever works. If putting one paw over the other and sighing while laying in the bathtub gives him bits of sandwiches, he'll do that instead of staring. Dog behavior is like a never-ending experiment. Zillions of hypotheses are thrown out every day by the dog, such as rushing mailboxes, staring at fridge doors, scratching fridge doors, and coming when called. The animal's hypothesis list the behaviors which they are inclined to try in various situations is influenced and constrained by genetics. Cows never try chasing squirrels, and dogs never, rarely, munch on hay. When a tried behavior dies from lack of reinforcement, that is called extinction. And extinctions like mailbox chasing, fridge door food soliciting, or coming when called happen so fast that the owner is usually unaware that the dog is even trying anything out at all. It's all extremely efficient and highly organized. No animal on earth would have okay. All right, whatever. She's talking about dogs evolving and all that stuff. Okay, this is usually where about the desire to please crops up. We really need to put this one to bed once and for all. Although praise can function as a reinforcer for many dogs, especially when there's absolutely nothing else around to compete with it, the human obsession with trying to use it as an exclusive motivator gets in the way of training dogs. So get out of your head that your dog wants to please you, okay? The dog is always trying its environment to see what is going to reinforce the dog, okay? Okay, so anyway, that is basically the crux of it. Dogs are constantly seeing what's going to get them reinforcement. And that's really important with tricks training because we try to communicate with our dog what we want it to do by luring or, doing a target or whatever. Let's say we want the dog to touch its nose to our hand, right? We put our hand up, we put food here, and when the dog's nose touches it, we give it the food, right? The dog realizes that if I touch the hand with my nose, I get the food, right? And then maybe the dog realizes that's reinforced. Then if I move my hand here and I want the dog's nose to go down, and the dog touches my hand down here, then it gets food. And the dog's going to try different behaviors. That's why when we do trick training, sometimes we'll be teaching the dog something new, and the dog will go back and do the last trick that we trained it and see if that's going to get it food. And if that doesn't get it food, then he looks to you for more clarification. Well, what do you want me to do? And we try to communicate with the dog what we want it to do and then reinforce that. Because of this principle that dogs are always looking to see of its environment what's going to get me reinforcement. And that's how we train the dog.